Hi, how are you? It's great to see you. I'm Josh Razauskas, here to talk to you about my thoughts on episode 2 of The Mandalorian entitled The Child. This episode to me was amazing. The visuals, the character building were amazing. The first 11 minutes of the show, and I counted it back because after I finished watching it, I went to the episode length ticker and I counted. So around the first 11 minutes, or maybe it was even 11 minutes and 37 seconds of the show, was nothing but the Mandalorian and the child walking. You saw this lizard-like creature with almost a duck face, curious about the child, and then Jawas come out of nowhere for the first time in this show, and they attempt to ransack the ship of the Mandalorian. The Mandalorian, of course, is trying to fight them off, and in the process, he gets himself injured. And this is the first time we see the child, the other species child from last week, attempt to use the Force to heal the injury as he's the Mandalorian. After the battle, that is, he's mending himself and not aware that the child is trying to heal him. He puts him back into his pod 3 different times and eventually closes the pod on him. Of course, the child does not understand why the Mandalorian won't allow himself to be healed. But again, the Mandalorian has no idea that that is what the child is trying to do. So the Mandalorian eventually, after an overnight stay, makes his way back to his ship. His ship, of course, has been torn asunder and just has no way to fly. He attempts to make it fly. Does not happen, so he goes back to Nick Nolte's character, who, I apologize, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but we talked about him last week. I have spoken. That guy goes back to him, and he's like, hey, I thought you were dead. And the Mandalorian's like, Jawas have ransacked my ship, stolen all my parts. I'm trapped here. And Nick Nolte's character is like, the Jawas don't steal. They bargain, they trade. You will trade with them. And the Mandalorian's like, trade with Jawas? You're crazy. But Nick Nolte's character's like, nope, you will trade with them. I have spoken. So they make their way to the Jawas and attempt to bargain for the Mandalorian's parts. They want the Mandalorian's weapons. Nick Nolte's character's like, no, he's a Mandalorian. He cannot give you his weapons. So the Jawas then come back and they say, we require the egg. They want the Mandalorian to bring them a giant egg. So it turns out that this giant egg is the property of a mother creature that is not pleasant. Looks like a giant space rhino, and the Mandalorian does not have an easy time with this creature at all. He at one point blacks out and looks like he's about to die, and the child comes to his rescue, doing the whole Force power deal that we've seen Yoda do in the past, lifting the creature off the ground and allowing the Mandalorian to execute him with his blaster, or sorry, not with his blaster, but with his long knife blade. I believe it's called something with a B. I apologize, I'm not versed in Star Wars weapon names. I will do better on that next episode because this clearly is going to be a key factor with the Mandalorian. But anyway, the Mandalorian kills the creature, brings the egg back to the Jawas, and Nick Nolte's character. Just before that, the Jawas are about to leave. Nick Nolte's character's like, fine, leave without me. And just then, here comes the Mandalorian and the child over the horizon saying, I have it, I have the egg. The Jawas, of course, are very excited that they have their Zupa, as they called the egg throughout the episode. And they prepare to eat it. The Mandalorian just shakes his head like, oh, what am I getting myself into here? So the Mandalorian and Nick Nolte alien make their way back to his home, and they go to the ship, and the Mandalorian's like, this is going to take days to fix. And Nick Nolte's like, if you agree to help, it may take less. And on the way there, Nick Nolte asks about the child and what happened, and he says, tell me again what happened. I still don't quite understand. And the Mandalorian responds by saying, neither do I. So the speculation that we had earlier this week on Tuesday about maybe the Mandalorian has a history with Yoda, and that's why he bonded with the child and reacted the way he did with the child, that all gets thrown out the window because he clearly knows nothing about the species. So this just shows, even though the Mandalorian is a bounty hunter and that is his profession, he does have a heart somewhere deep inside. So that will obviously play a bigger role as the series moves forward. But Nick Nolte's like, is the child injured? Because this entire time the child has been sleeping. And the Mandalorian's like, no, I don't think he injured himself physically. So they end up fixing the ship. The Mandalorian offers the Nick Nolte character a place on his crew, saying, I could really use a crew member of your skill and I can pay handsomely. Nick Nolte's like, I am honored, Mandalorian, but I've spent my whole life to not work in servitude. And the Mandalorian's like, I completely understand that. All I can offer is my thanks, because he also offered him part of the reward, which Nick Nolte turned down. And Nick Nolte's like, and I offer mine. Thank you for bringing peace back to my village. I have spoken. And that's the last time we hear I have spoken. And the Mandalorian prepares to take off. The child wakes up at the very end of the episode and they go off planet. And that is how the episode comes to an end. Another just over 30-minute episode. So it looks like that's going to be the norm for the Mandalorian. Just over 30 minutes. It still feels a bit jarring, because we're so used to major episode events being 45 minutes to an hour. But again, maybe it's the influence of Dave Filoni, because that's what Dave Filoni is used to with Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. I don't know. But that seems to be the norm, and it feels very episodic. And I like it. I'm really enjoying The Mandalorian. And what we said last week about maybe episode 1 was just establishing the world and the character. In this episode, we'll definitely get to see him be the more Western lone gunman badass. That definitely happened in this episode, for sure. Because this was all about, I am not one to be trifled with. I am the Mandalorian. So another perfect episode. Just really, really enjoyed everything about it. I am so looking forward to seeing where this story arc goes and what other characters we see and what the origin of the species of the Yoda creature child is all about. So do let me know what you thought about the episode down below in the comment section. Of course, please consider subscribing if you haven't already done so that you don't miss out on any future reviews and episodes of the Josh Razauskas Show, where I cover the movie news and television news world as well when there's not reviews to do. You can drop a like on this video, as that really helps me out with the ever-changing YouTube algorithm to let YouTube know that you enjoy what I'm doing. Of course, along with subscribing, as you see the icon appear on your screen now, you can check out the previous Mandalorian review if you missed the review episode that I did on the pilot. And as Batman Begins reminds us, it is not who we are, but what we do that defines us. So make the choice to go out and do something great today and make it so.